Hi guys, Kim Jong Lee here, back with another online commentary battle for Untotal War. This time it's a 2 vs 2 31k rules battle. I actually had this replay sent in because I forgot to save it. So I'm this dark blue Romans with the faded wolf, CPI Romans here. And my ally is IQ00, playing as the CPI Romans. He's the one who sent this to me, so cheers to him. We're playing against Renegade, also known as Turk, of the Immortals of War Clan, and Sparky of the Immortals of War Clan. Turk and Sparky, very good players. Immortals of War also very well known for 31k. IQ00 I think is a little bit newer to 31k, but he seems to have a pretty good grasp of at least the basics. And I've actually seen him online quite a fair bit, so I think he's a pretty good player as well. So we're just kind of moving up now, and Turk is very well known for trying to attack the flank. So IQ00 helpfully reminded me that in the previous games he played, I think it was on the same day, so this was the only game I played with Turk, but IQ00 had played with Turk previously. So previously Turk had also just kind of pushed the flank and won, so he did warn me about that. And yeah, I'm not really a fan of flanking that much, so I like to play a much more standard game. So I'm just trying to kind of keep the balance here rather than counter flank too much. Although I am looking for an opportunity to counter flank, which you will see kind of what I decide later on to do. So Renegade, Turk here is going to be pushing the flank, so Sippy's just going to fall back and keep collapsing. I'm going to keep moving up though, and it's very important that when one guy collapses, the other one actually advances, because you want to keep the line at least, you know, at 180 degrees. You don't want to be collapsing so much that it becomes like a convex angle, or like a, you know, it becomes like a C shape in the other direction, because that actually opens you up to a lot of flank charges on the kind of middle portion of the infantry. And although it seems good, it's only really good with pikes. I think you have to do it with pikes, but with Rome I think it's really desirable to keep it at least flat. So that's why every time Turk pushes up, my ally folds back and I advance, essentially, because we have to keep the line straight. It's always good to do that. And also you've got to allocate your resources properly. 31k is, in my opinion, really all about positioning, and it's really about who has their resources, for example their urbans and cav, positioned in the right places at the right times. And Turk's actually sort of touched on this in some of his videos. I'll link his channel in the description actually, because I actually kind of like his channel. But yeah, he's actually said a lot of good stuff about 31k and how he thinks of 31k, and I think a lot of it is actually quite relevant, and I agree with quite a bit of what he says. So yeah, check it out if you can. But he's going to keep pushing the flank here, and he's thinking about a charge on this urban cohort unit. I think a couple of units glitched here, so that was unfortunate, but he hasn't lost too many. He's lost, I think, half of this unit, but that's kind of it. So not game deciding. And you can see that every time Turk pushes up, he also looks for an opportunity to shoot with these cav and take a unit that's running backwards, and hopefully route that. So for example, this loose formation unit here, Turk seems to find this very desirable, and he just charges in there and tries to pick it off. Sippy meanwhile tries to countercharge, and because of maybe a combination of the lag and also difficulty of pulling out in 31k, he does manage to snag a couple of units there, but also one of his units gets stuck. So yeah, that's pretty normal, I guess. But you'll see Sparky's actually voluntarily collapsing now without me actually having pushed up. I am going to push up a bit here, but yeah, I think Sparky's really just maintaining the line. And so this is a pretty crucial point. I think this is when I make the decision that I'm actually going to instead of counter flanking, I'm just going to move my resources here and support IQ00. I feel like Sparky has essentially adopted a very defensive role in this game. There were times previously where he just collapsed without me actually having to do anything. So it seemed like if I tried to counterflank, he would just keep collapsing and I wouldn't be able to get onto his flank. So instead of that, I'm just going to shove everything IQ's way, and I'm also seeing this mass kind of cav committal here from both Sparky and Renegade. So I'm moving my cav over to support because I really don't want this to go down, because at this point I'm not going to rout Sparky as quickly as Turk and Sparky are going to rout IQ. So what I'm trying to get IQ to do is move all his infantry to essentially shore up this flank and really hamper the cav charges that are going to come in from Sparky and Turk. It really makes a big difference when you have a ton of infantry units in the place they're trying to cav charge. Cav charging through the front is actually not a good idea when there are a bunch of bunch of infantry units in your way, and the more layers you kind of have on that, the better. So I'm going to tell IQ00 to move essentially his entire army over to this side now, because this is where the main battle is taking place. This is where all the cav is, and this is where we need to win. So he's going to start shoving men over now, and I'm going to shove men in his direction, essentially to fill up this area that he's going to probably leave behind. And Sparky has kind of done the same, but I think he's more mirroring my movements at this point. But yeah, these charges are coming in, but as you can see, they're onto the front of units most of the time. We'll see Sparky charging in here towards the center, and IQ00 counter charging against Turk. These counter charges should do some decent work, but Sparky is going to do really well here to catch a couple of IQ00's units actually just running, and they were actually just running, so they actually got a side charge on a lot of those running units, and this unfortunately resulted in a mass rout for us. So four of IQ's units going down there. So the battle is definitely now currently in favor of Sparky here. Turk is also trying to push the flank even more with this cav and stuff, and he's also shoved an urban around the flank it makes things really annoying for our cav. So that was also a nice move, and he's also actually got a pretty nice angle on the sides of these urbans of IQ. And Sparky's just playing the support role, so he can come in with a counter charge. He can also go for charges here in the center when we're not looking. I've come over now with my entire army, and I've left essentially only like 2 or 3 units here. So we do actually have a ton of urbans now, and I'm actually going to be able to block a lot of Turks units here, and this is quite key because Turk committed 3 of his cav here, and I'm going to be able to kill those 3 cav quite convincingly. And he does get the counter charge here, but I also managed to kill quite a bit of his cav because my cav was still charging in. And me and IQ are both going to counter charge now and kill a lot of Turk's cav as they're trying to pull out. And also IQ is going to come in here, so he's also got quite a nice angle on Sparky's counter charge there. Meanwhile, I've pulled 2 of my units out that went in for the first charge, the first counter charge against Turk. And what I'm actually going to try and do now is pick off Turk's cav and essentially take his cav out of the game, because yeah, Sparky seems really focused on this infantry here. So I'm just going to send a couple units here, kill Turk's cav off where I can. But meanwhile, I'm quite happy with the resource allocation and positioning in this game, because we have essentially my entire army, bar 2 units, all on this flank, which is the important part. So as long as this place does well, then we should do pretty well overall. And yeah, IQ actually coming in with a pretty nice surprise charge there and routing 2 units, which was nice. keeps Sparky on his toes and keeps his attention divided. And while his attention is divided, we can go for some charges over here. Meanwhile, I have managed to actually take out some of Turk's cav. This is partly why I don't like leaving cav standing there on the flank, because your opponent can just charge them if they have superior cav. But yeah, I was pretty happy with that pick off, so that went well, I guess. Sparky going to come in now and essentially try and save some of his dying infantry. His infantry is dying out very quickly here. Turk has just testudoed up, and I think it might be... yeah, Turk has just testudoed up, so Turk is adopting... he's essentially trying to stall with some of these urbans, but he's not being proactive anymore. And I guess that's because his push to the flank failed, so he's also very low on stuff he actually has to use. So he's kind of just left everything to Sparky. IQ00 comes in with a charge here, and I actually don't like this charge very much. Because I told him essentially at this point to take it really easy, but and I thought he like losing those 2 cav was a mistake. But it does open up actually a nice counter charge, because Sparky mushed his infantry in, essentially trying to attack these cav, and we were able to counter charge, and I was going for the general. Unfortunately the general doesn't go, but all his other units go, and that looks really good. Again, Sparky trying to counter charge, but already too many of his infantry have routed, and I have a ton of infantry just sitting around here, so they're going to soak up this cav hit pretty nicely. And yeah, some cav here around the flank, but we have more than enough cav to counter and charge at the same time. And I'm going for his general again. His general goes down, and yeah, that makes this engagement over here actually even favorable for us, because the morale will be on our side. So IQ00 gonna charge in again here, and I'm going to turn around and charge in again as well. And that essentially wraps up this flank, so we've won that pretty nicely. And a lot of Turk and Sparky's units here just tied up against a bunch of infantry units. And again, Turk, I think at some point in the game he just left to cook something. So maybe this was it, because he moved this cav here, and that was kind of the last move I saw him make. He just left everything else to Sparky, but I think this cav unit could have helped him out, helped Sparky out a bit, but you know, up to Turk what he does. But yeah, this is essentially game over, because Sparky's cav is irrelevant at this stage, just because he doesn't have enough left. And myself and IQ have very relevant numbers of cav left, and we're just going to clean up here. We also got a crap ton of infantry remaining, especially myself, because I came in a bit later, and IQ took essentially the brunt of Turk and Sparky's charges here. So he is a bit lower on infantry, but he was the tank of the team. Had to soak up those charges pretty nicely. And this is essentially GG, so I'll just triple speed it. So well played there to Sparky and Turk. I think neither myself or IQ00 were expecting to win that game, just because we're not like the most in practice people for 31k, but it's a fun game nonetheless. And yeah, thanks for watching guys, I'll see you another time.